Peace and light, family. I'm Shayola the Artisan. Welcome to Rawish with moi, Shayola the Artisan, here at the cottage. So today we are making my version of bacon, eggs, and cheesy grits. So maybe by the end of this, you all can help me rename it. It is a dish, so to speak, that can be for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And it doesn't necessarily have to be identified as eggs, bacon, or grits. It just depends on the audience. So we are going to get started. Let me know if you have questions. Here again, I cannot see, but I can hear you. So just let me know. I have already begun to soak my quinoa so that it is loosened, so to speak, so it doesn't take as much preparation. Now, 112, 115 degrees is the highest that I would prepare something when it is rawish. So it takes a little longer if you don't prep properly. So I'm going to let the quinoa soak just for a little while longer. So what we will do is get our cilantro and parsley, although we do not need all of it. Who can tell me what cilantro and parsley are good for? Well, let's start with the parsley. Like, what would you use in terms of it being a medicinal item? Those are my sacred women in the house or in the cottage. Who knows what cilantro is good for? Anybody? Well, it's good for detoxification of the intestines. So you want to add fresh cilantro to really many dishes. It's very versatile. It has a light and fresh taste. Okay, so I'm going to ask that you all bear with me because I could be OCD-ish and wash my hands 1,000 times. So the cilantro and parsley will go, it can go really in with the avo egg or the avocado, and it can go in the, what would be the bacon. So for those of us who have begun to garden, you would use all of your excess as compost. So I'm just going to put this to the side and not make too much of a mess. Do you have any questions so far? Oh, so who can tell me what the parsley is good for? Does anybody eat parsley, like just raw? I can't hear you, Dana. I think you're saying something. I see your lips moving. No? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, even though I feel like, see, she done put me on the spot. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. No, but parsley is really good for the eyesight. This has a more, I would say, earthy taste. So I'm just doing a light dice of it. And as I've explained in previous classes, the stem of your herbs have a great amount of nutrients. So you can leave all or some in there or none at all, just depending on you. And I do welcome questions. So Dana, I don't know if you just didn't speak or I just didn't hear you, but I for sure didn't hear anything. Did you ask a question? You said something?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Okay. But I can hear you, so that's great. All right. So I'm going to put the cilantro and parsley off to the side. Now, cilantro and parsley, basil, dill, those are some essentials that you can definitely just have around because they just add so much flavor to your dish. So then we're going to take part red onion. We don't need a great deal of onion for either. So we're just going to prep it. And can you all see what I'm doing? I know I have these two little bowls in the front.
Yes.
Okay. So how's everybody doing? How was your day? Anything interesting happened? So we are in our Sacred Woman Village in the week of what we call Ta'ert, and that focuses on sacred foods. So that's why I'm wearing my greens in honor of Ta'ert. And although not what we call gateway, I definitely identify because I love to prepare food. So I'm striving to even remove the word cook from my vocabulary because I no longer want to or desire to cook my food. Okay, so then
I also learned and learning more about Ta'ert that I saw. I think it was on Netflix or Amazon Prime. It was a documentary of the gut, and it says actually the gut is the first brain. You know, and
the
you
gut is
know
the
how
first.
they
I can
say
hear you, Dana. It's the
the
first.
gut is the first brain.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, when they say feed the mind, they're really talking about the gut. And then they also go into say how, you know, over there in China or in the Buddhist, how you will see it will have the head up top and it'll have another face in the gut because the gut is initially where it's all starts from.
And that makes very much sense. That's life. That's where your life takes place. So we definitely want to make sure that we are feeding the gut all that's necessary for it to be nourished, you know, all foods and things that we're putting into it to be high vibrational. One of the reasons why we don't want to cook all of the nutrients out of it. So in my my veggie mix, I'm going to add a little bit of green onion as well. Some people call it scallion, I guess, just depending on where you are. And that's for a little extra flavor. We can never have too much of that. And then I'm going to take a clove of garlic. So fresh garlic is great. Obviously, that's our hot food. That's the heat element. It could be used as antibacterial, fighting virus and things to that nature. But like garlic powder doesn't have any nutritional value. So when using garlic, you definitely want to err on the side of the clove itself. It could be very pungent, of course, like I said, spicy. So it's up to you how much you really want to use. I happen to love garlic. So I'm going to use 2 cloves. I just cut the tips off and then I'll mash it down like so, just to make it a little easier to chop. And I am self-taught, so I did not go to a fancy school yet, even though I have my eye on at least 2. So I know that there is such a more elegant way to chop and cut and slice and dice, but I'm doing it my way, and the way that I know is filled with a whole lot of love. All right, so now we have and all of this is like a light chop. Now, if you desire, you don't have to use the cutting board or knife. You could just use a food processor. So this is like a so. Okay, and then what we'll do is make the rinse, for the rinse 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 not rinse, but the sauce for what we are labeling as our bacon. Can y'all hear that in the background? Okay. So I'm using some tamari sauce. Now this goes with a lot of Asian dishes typically, but you know, it gives a nice smoky flavor. And then we have the Worcestershire sauce, which is vegan. And you have to, if you're going the vegan route, you want to make sure that you are looking at the ingredients. So with the tamari, I used about a tablespoon. With the Worcestershire, I used about a half tablespoon. And then because this is going to be our hickory blend, I'm going to use a little maple syrup. That was definitely a full teaspoon. And then, sorry, I'm going to add just a little bit of salt to balance the flavor. Maybe. Okay. Then we have a little bit of, now with onion and garlic in it, smoked paprika. Now the smoked paprika is going to give it nothing more than a smoky taste and a little bit of color too. So usually we use it for like decoration, but you don't want to put too much because it could be cakey or chalky, if you will. So now with my big white bowl, I'm going to mix. And then I'm going to let it set for a moment. Put it behind me. And then I'm going to just step out of frame for a moment. I'm going to drain off the water, and then we're going to put it on a low heat and allow that to soften as we continue in the process. Be back in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up between 2 and 3, and then this is me looking for my spoon that I probably left in the sink. Does anybody have any questions so far? How do y'all feel about quinoa? Is it a thing for you? Anybody? No one's had quinoa? I can't believe it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good dish, but you gotta have it in the right combination, right? Like I think I had it like as a salad one time and it was cold, and
so you don't
I
like
prefer it like, well, not even necessarily like it was like ice cold, you know what I mean? Like I didn't want to, it wasn't the experience that, I mean, if it was room temperature or even, slightly warm with some black beans, I think for the texture with the lettuce, it didn't do it for me.
So have you ever tried it with quinoa period with cumin?
No.
So that's kind of like, I'm going to use this behind me because I try to be fancy today in the spirit of my eye and just you know, did not do my checks and balances. This is a 3-prong, not a 2. So I'm just going to put this on the stove, still between 2 and 3. So what I was saying was, I don't know, it's something about the quinoa grainy taste with the cumin that is just so great, with a little sea salt, and that's really all you need. It is so dope. So I'm going to pour just a little water off because you don't need that much. Okay. So then we're also going to cover our quinoa, and then we're going to let that simmer down now for a little while. Thank y'all for being patient with me. I feel you are here with me, but I feel like, you know, I'm always cooking with music, and I'm used to music in the background. So not being able to really see you, I'm just like, where's everybody? So feel free to tune in at any time.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect opportunity for some Q&A, if you don't mind.
No, not at
You know,
all. as someone who, you know, is just getting into, you know, understanding what rawish is and why it's important. You mentioned 115 degrees. So can you talk to a little bit about, you know, why not cooking your food is important in terms of, you know, temperature and nutrients and how that plays a role in health? Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So I'm going to stop for a moment so that I can properly answer. The concept of rawish is a couple of things. One, I do in some of my meals use honey. And of course, honey comes from a bean. However, it is what they secrete is healthy. So I strive to be mindful of the types of honeys that I do use. Another reason why the concept is rawish is because we definitely lose so much of the phytonutrients when we add the steam, if you will, to the food. It's almost like we just cook the nutrients right out because it's just so hot. It's like it just burns off. So if you ever notice, if you, let's say, had some kale, I don't know, you know, there are many ways to make kale, but once you add heat to it, it automatically just becomes, you know, wilted and like a dull green. But if you take that same kale and you massage the sauce, if you will, or the seasonings into it, it softens on its own and it absorbs the flavor. So, you know, there are many things that we can do to maintain the nutrient density of our foods. So let's say preparing them, albeit on a stove top or in a dehydrator, you want to make sure that it really is 118 degrees. I've seen some studies where they say they go as high as 130. I strive to do an average of the two numbers, which was 111.5. So I just round up to 112, sometimes 115. I've also noticed that when you use, let's say, the dehydrator, it does allowing the food to remain live. Here again, it is preserving the food, but not stripping it of its nutrients. But I make a dessert called the Scoopy Cookie Drop. And the first time that I put it in the dehydrator, it took about 18 hours, but it was fire, y'all. Like, you can taste every seasoning that's in the Scoopy. It was just amazing. So I think my screen probably just went. My apologies, someone's trying to get through. but it'll come back in a moment. But in any event, the main reason why you want to maintain the vitality of your food is to ingest, if you will, energy, light energy, electricity, because you are made of it. So the body will recognize raw foods. It'll help you to digest and process raw foods. Whereas if you had something that was dead, shelf or what have you, you know, from dead comes dead. So you can't expect that if we take in a whole bunch of dead food that we would have the same vitality. Now, of course, if we are in a survival sort of situation where, you know, a canned food is what we have access to, then we, you know, that's what we have access to. But in the grand scheme of things, you want to fresh, frozen, fresh, dehydrated, and strive to keep the heat levels down. One of the things that I have learned in what we call the gateway of Thai herb is that we have devitalized taste buds. So we're used to tasting the things that are not so great, and our senses also align with those things. So we tend to, you know, go towards the things that we know we're really not supposed to have. And I feel like the older you get, it's like the more your body tells you, like, nope, not for you. That's not going to be it. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, I love portobellos. Now, people have their opinions, differences in whether or not you should consume mushrooms. For me, it's all things in moderation, give reverence, and not be greedy about it. Like you have to have this one thing that you know maybe it's a sacrifice of something else, even though the vegetables are, but we are of it. I say that to say I strive not to eat too much mushroom, but sometimes I can go overboard. So this is a good, for lack of a better word or term, meat replacement. Because of its texture, you can cut it as thick or thin as you like. So for this, I'm going to cut it fairly on the thinner side. No one really likes well, I can't say no one. I haven't had meat since I was 15. And I'm now 40, so I wouldn't be the best person to ask. But in any event, we're going to a slice like so. And as I'm slicing, just want to remind you that we do have the quinoa on the stove. And maybe about 10 minutes or so, I will add a little bit of the pink Himalayan salt and the cumin, which is, I love it. Any questions so far? Anybody? Okay. All right. So now I am going to flatten these like so. Much as I can. Okay. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more to my mix. That's my way of tasting without being extra. All right. So if you desire to, you can add a little bit of oil. I love grapeseed oil or a coconut oil, olive, cold press. We're going to add just a little bit more of the Worcestershire. And what I should have brought over was, now we can use onion powder. You can add that. Okay. And normally for such a thing, we would use a brush, but we're going to use a spoon today. So with each one, you just want to coat it with your sauce. Since there's some downtime in here, does anyone have any questions? Have you learned anything new today? Anything? I'm trying to think, what did I learn new today? I'm more organized than I thought, even though I felt like I had everything I needed in this space. Getting some things done. All right. My poor burlap taking a beating over here.
You're doing wonderful. You're always your biggest critic.
Thank you. My divine reflection. I'm so happy that you all are here. I am.
And you know, Shayola, I'm intentionally not engaging with you, right? So you know that it's not. This is a part of what you asked me to do, so I'm just doing my job.
Look, I am. Sometimes I can be so like, no, I'm gonna do it my way, and my way is the only way. But coming into a space where it's just like there's so much abundance and so much to learn, and you know, it's like I want all the feedback. I just want to be able to help as many people as I can. If I had to put a number on it, I would say 1,000 wounds and 1,000 guts at a time.
Absolutely.
Right?
And one thing that is hard for someone as a presenter, and I can tell you this, is when you're standing in front of people and they're not engaging with you, right? So dealing in this digital world, it's an opportunity to be quick on your feet and still hold and captivate the audience while no one is responding, especially as you get these corporate clients. So we'll talk about it later, but you're doing amazing though. So I'm gonna go back on mute.
Look, y'all, I had to, and shout out to the sister that came through on Instagram, who said that she was interested in the show. So, of course you have to keep pushing no matter how this, you just got to keep doing it. And I love doing it. So I desire just the feedback to know, okay, this is what you could do quicker. Now, for sure, having this plugged up would have been a great help. Because now I have to stand.
Well, look, let's stay in the energy of you not critiquing yourself out loud and keeping it all in your head, and still presenting and going on with the show.
You know what? Thank you.
I want you to stay in the kitchen.
Like, why do you always do that?
Stay in the heat right now.
I'm going on mute. Why it took so long to get video started, because I can be so critical in the midst. Just like, girl, just do the thing. All right. So, what we're gonna do next is just allow the mushrooms to marinate just for a little while, right? So that's that. Now, on the flip side of things, this is super easy in the sake of keeping you captivated. So we're going to cut our avocado, twist off, and then I'm gonna take the seed out. Okay. Now, here again, part of the reason why I was calling this more so of an avocado egg is because it once you put this black salt on it, it's so awesome. Like, who would have thunk it? Has anyone ever heard of black salt? It's not really even black, it's kind of pink, right? So what we're gonna do with the avocado is just take a light spoon to it, or you can use, I call it a matcher, which is what I would use if I were making potatoes or yuca. You don't want to make it too creamy. You want to keep some of the chunk in there for the texture. So you know what? I think I may do. Let's film again. All right. So now here again, this is salt. So you don't want to put too much of it because it definitely has an eggy taste to it. And this is something that you don't need to add heat to. I typically keep avocados out. Sometimes I put them in the fridge. So you just want to add just a sprinkle of your black salt. I'm not a huge black pepper person, but you can put black pepper. And then I will take not so much of the garlic, but the parsley, cilantro, and the scallion, the green onion. And it's like a veggie omelet or just really dope avocado chunks. Okay, so there we are with that. All right. So we have one task complete. This is the avocado. We're going to leave that on the side. Now, I'm a huge herb person, so I like my herbs chunky. Okay. All right. So I'm going to now add our sea salt. Now, for those of us who have hypertension and high blood pressure, we don't want to add salt at all. But for those of us that can handle it, I'll move this here so you can see it. We're going to put a little sea salt, and definitely our cumin. I hope that y'all really do try this combination. And I hope that you love it just as much as I do. It's so good. Okay. So we're going to allow the quinoa to cool uncovered. And then we're going to move over to our bacon, which is our last order of business. Well, second to last. So typically you probably wouldn't put herbs in the pan, but I love them in everything. I put herbs in everything. So before we put anything, we're going to just put a smidge of our grapeseed oil. Turn this flame down. I'm going to bring this between. Now this is not as raw because we are turning up the volume on this. So definitely more on the raw-ish side. We're going to keep the temperature low. So We're gonna allow those to brown. And just please let me know if you can't hear me over the sizzle. Now, I like diet cheese, but I like it in the block. Now, for the sake of time, I'm using the block cheese. Maybe we could do a series on where we just do cheeses, but it takes about 24 to 32 hours for it to set, which, you know, time is relative. Now, I prefer this cheese because it has a sharper taste. The already shredded, in my opinion, is a little too thick. But this is a great combination with the cumin. I don't know, but it just works. Now, typically speaking, the cheese doesn't melt like a typical cheese. So I'm going to add this to the pot while it is uncovered. I let some of the steam out, and now we're just going to hold it in and stir it in just a moment. Do we have any questions so far? Do we have any mushroom lovers? Okay. All right, now that I've cooked those down, prepared those down just a bit, I'm gonna add the rest of my accoutrement. And this is just for extra flavor for me. I think it's just an awesome way to strive to get all of your nutrients in. And vegan meals don't have to be like traditional, I guess, meals where you have a meat, a starch, and a vegetable. All right. So perhaps just allowing it to brown just a little bit more. Put that there. What would be dope is if we had like a group of people in there, everybody can see, like we all help or something, I don't know. But it smells so good already, and I can't even eat it. All right, so here we go. Task 2 complete. Well, delicious. Now, so what I will do is add my mushrooms, which have probably more herb than mushrooms, but that's great, right? Because we want all the herbs we can get. And then if we want it to be fancy schmancy, we can take the quinoa and place it into a bowl. Mash it down like so. Turn it over on the bowl, on the plate. And then you can top it with your avo egg. And voila. So normally when I post the pictures, I do all this fancy schmancy stuff, or at least that's what I would like to think. So I will definitely share the recording with you. Again, welcoming all the feedback. And because it's all of my friends here, I will probably record it again. So please send me all of the feedback that you can. This is the first time that I'm doing everything front forward and not using the stove, and I really wanted to add that part. So I hear you, Rob,
Cool.
and I thank you all for joining
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, if you have any time today, just hit me up if you want to talk after or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, does anybody have any questions, any thoughts, any concerns? That sounds like
If there was a way that I could like take a fork right now and beam me up a taste, because it sucks just not having the food, you know what I'm saying? You over there smelling it. The presentation is so well done. So it's definitely, I don't know, like even when I watch a Food Network, right, there's less of a connectivity level because I'm watching TV, right? I can't ask Rachel Ray or Bobby Faye a question.
right.
So even though their food looks good, it's appealing, but because I'm able to connect with you, it's almost like you have the aroma coming through the phone, so it makes me that much more hungry. So, and then you're doing that, you're making it worse. No?
Well, I definitely, you know, this is when you're growing.
Well, I'm saying that's a good thing. Yeah, it's a great thing, and it's an energy that you've been able to capture.
Say it again, love.
It's an energy that you were able to capture. I didn't even know existed. So we're gonna really we're gonna tone into that because I think that's dope.
Good, thanks. See, this is why I need people to like tell me what's up. So that will wrap up this session of Rawish. So next week we will be doing more of a porridge. There's so many grains that we can use. And I actually love quinoa again as a cereal or as a porridge, if you will. So, you know, I'll just keep doing these until it is like, I learned something new today. Come on and learn something with me. So thank you for tuning in. I will see you next week, Friday. And always, always love and light.